Hello everyone, welcome to Revenge with Harlan, where we listen and share thought-provoking stories. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss a new episode. And now, let's get started. I am Marshall Grant, 73 years old, a former Marine. People see my hand still shaking every time the exhaust suddenly roars out in the street. They think it's a sign of old age, of nightmares from long ago. I know. It's the lingering beat of an oath, never to abandon my brothers, never to abandon myself. That morning, Wilmington, North Carolina, was overcast, the wind from the Cape Fear River blowing across the airport parking lot, as if to push the silhouettes toward the departure gate. My son, Nathan, was dragging his ash-gray suitcase along the stone floor. His wife, Chloe, was holding a brand-new phone, its camera flashing. They put a bill in my hand, $70, and then turned away, their sharp laughter tossed behind them like cold marbles. "Dad will be fine. The senior center is nearby." "I have a meeting tonight," Nathan said, glancing over, as nonchalant as if folding an old receipt. I stood there, my thin, early summer coat fluttering in the air-conditioned breeze. People pushed past, the scent of coffee and perfume mixed. No one knew, no one needed to know. But I knew. 2 years and 8 months, every day, I quietly waited for the ordinary war to come at its proper time. Curious? If you're reading this, you're probably wondering why a father was left behind by his own son like a lost parcel. I'll tell you, not to make anyone feel sorry for him, but to let those who are standing on the edge of silence see another shore, the shore of truth. Martha, my wife, died of cancer on a September afternoon in 2022. The late sunlight filtered through the crystal curtains, resting softly on her hand. We lived in the house we bought in 1988, paid off in 14 years on a meager salary and a disability allowance. I jokingly called heavy memory money. That house, appraised at nearly $312,000, was where Martha treasured each potted orchid, and where I hung my faded military badges on the west side of the living room. After the funeral, Nathan said, "Come live with us, Dad, so you won't be lonely." I heard the sound of bottles crashing like waves on the side of the kitchen, and my heart felt as empty as an attic without power. I agreed, saying it was temporary, just for a few months. I still kept the house key, and still went home to visit the old fig tree once a week. But then, month after month, the temporary things began to take root. Nathan offered to help me manage my bills, transfer my mail and bank cards to my new address. Chloe said my phone was too old to be hacked, so she suggested using a shared family account for safety. I didn't pay attention. When people are sad, they tend to close their eyes and let someone lead them across the street. One night, I saw Chloe turn the screen to my face. "Smile, Dad," she said, her voice sweet as scented soap. I smiled weakly. They said they needed to record moments of life, so if the doctor asks, I'll have something to show them. I nodded, though my heart sank as I felt the moment of life was like a thin net. I took the medication prescribed by Dr. Eleanor Brooks at the Eastern Medical Center. Sertraline 75 milliliters, prazosin 1 milliliters. Small pills, but enough to pull me out of the depths of the bullet-riddled nights. Dr. Brooks always concluded, clear consciousness, good memory for age, controlled anxiety. She told me I needed to walk and talk more. I tried. But in the new kitchen, I was silent more than I spoke. Then the laughter began. "Dad forgot to turn off the light again," Nathan said. "He's been lost for hours," Chloe added. Every time I stood up because of the slam of a car door outside, they glanced at each other. I heard a few thinly sliced words from the living room. Guardianship, name transfer, notary. I was used to eavesdropping, Having lived in the jungle for years, you learn to hear what people want to hide. I didn't ask. The old soldier did not rush to shoot until he saw the target. On February 19, 2024, Nathan handed me a stack of papers. "Dad, sign a few things for me. All temporary authorizations for me to pay taxes. Insurance, so I don't have to bother you." I glanced through them. The paper was white, light blue ink, and had a strange watermarked seal. The witness line was blank, and notary was smudged. I smiled and said, "I'll read it later tonight." Chloe took a picture and put the stack of papers away. "Don't worry, Dad, I scanned it." That night, when they went to the living room to watch TV, I opened the old metal box, a 40th wedding anniversary gift that Martha had teased as a trophy chest. Inside were the original house papers, a statement of the pension fund where I had worked for 30 years at North Star Aerospace after retiring from the military. Changed the company name to make it different from my old self. Current balance, $180,000. I never bragged, nor did I ever think of hiding it. But now, it's hidden as the last wall protecting my back. I bought a small voice recorder, the kind that activates when spoken. I put it in my shirt pocket just above my left breast, near a faded scar. I started recording the words that passed through the house, the laughter when I spilled a glass of water, the complaints when I asked again what time it was for dinner, and the quiet agreements at 0:37 a.m. about getting legal advice on guardianship. One afternoon, I heard Nathan tell Chloe, "If you want to transfer joint ownership, you need 2 witnesses and a notary. Ben said so." Then they laughed. "But have Dad sign first." I fell silent, my hands on the mahogany table, imagining the old knife marks Martha had made when she chopped onions. I can't describe what I felt. It wasn't anger. It's like being dragged backwards through a rain-soaked forest, where gunshots crackle across a river, where you know you can't fall because the person next to you is watching you go first. I took the tape recorder and the stack of papers to Colonel Robert Hayes, a brother I knew from VFW Post 61-3, also a lawyer and notary. He listened, without interrupting, only raising his eyebrows a few times when Nathan's voice was icy. "The court will believe the video more than your words." And when Chloe said, "Nursing home is good for you." At the end, Hayes sighed, his large hand on my shoulder. "Marshall, this is elder abuse, financial and emotional. But we're doing it right, following the law. Give me the doctor's most recent competency assessment." I handed over Dr. Brooks's latest report. Age-appropriate cognitive ability, good self-determination, no evidence of memory impairment. Hayes nodded. "So we're not weak. We're just waiting for the right moment." In the days of waiting, I went down to the river at dusk. The water rippled under the bridge. The sound of seabirds cut through the purple sky. I remembered Martha, the small woman who seemed to have 2 hearts in her chest. I whispered, "Honey, if there is anything left unfinished, I will go today." In early April, the Baker family held a barbecue as they did every year. Nathan suggested that I go with them. "Dad, let's go out for fun." I smiled and went. I wanted to see the eyes of the neighbors, to hear the words that Nathan liked to say out loud in public. The smoke of grilled pork mixed with the smell of cold beer. I stood by the wooden fence, watching the shoes running across the lawn. Daniel Ortiz, the staff sergeant at Lejeune Station, raised his hand to salute me like soldiers salute each other, not ostentatious, but as firm as a milestone. "Sir, are you okay?" "I can count the stars," I said jokingly. He smiled, but the smile faded when Nathan spoke loudly. "I forgot the neighbor's name. Yesterday, I left the milk in the microwave." Chloe added, "He even got mad when I reminded him to take his medicine. I came back so I could prove it. Everyone nodded. I heard the click of the hot sauce cap like an alarm. I didn't argue. The recorder in my pocket lit up for a second and then went off. Daniel didn't look at Nathan. He looked straight at me. "Sir, if you need anything, my door is open." Just 5 words, but lifted my shoulder out of the water. "We need a grand marshal this Veterans Day," Hayes said in late September. "The city is packed. Over 600 people lined the Riverwalk. Do you dare?" I was quiet for a few seconds. The crowd was my challenge, but what was happening wasn't just mine. "Dare," I said. It was in the local paper. The day the newspaper came back, Nathan beamed. "Dad, you're famous. Let me take you to get fitted for a suit." I smiled. No arguing, no arguing. The holiday arrived, the November weather cool. I wore the tuxedo that had lain dormant for 12 years in the closet, the purple and bronze stars catching the morning light. Nathan adjusted my collar, excited as if glory had just fallen on his yard. Chloe stood in the front row with her phone held high. Hayes read about me briefly but clearly. The first applause was polite, the next was warmer. I took the microphone, my voice unshaken. "I appreciate this honor, but I want to use it to talk about something else. Aging parents being worn down by their own loved ones every day. I am one of them." I pulled a brown envelope from my pocket. Inside were the statement, the medical evaluation, photos of the paperwork, and a small USB stick. In here are 26 recordings. In them, my son, Nathan Grant, and his wife, Chloe, discussed my guardianship against my will, illegally transferred assets, and created videotapes to make the neighbors believe I was confused and violent. The crowd stirred, some gasping in surprise. Nathan stood up. "You're getting off topic. Let me explain." "No need," I said, handing the microphone to Hayes. "I have a lawyer." Hayes stepped forward, his voice steady, as if reading from a formal transcript. "We have reviewed and verified. The documents and recordings show signs of elder abuse under state law, control of accounts, abuse of power to seize assets, fabrication of cognitive impairment. I am announcing on behalf of Marshall, a temporary restraining order was granted by the court this morning. Any contact with you must go through legal representation." Someone in the crowd applauded. Then more. A few whistles erupted. Nathan's face was drained of color, and Chloe dropped her phone as if she had touched a thorn bush. Daniel Ortiz from the 3rd row quickly stepped up to stand next to me, standing as straight as a new flagpole. "Sir, I'll take you home." As we passed through the crowd, an elderly woman put her hand on mine. My son did the same to me. I paused for half a beat and bowed my head. We just looked at each other, no words needed. The following week, a thick stack of letters arrived in the mail. The bank had discovered a string of transactions I hadn't authorized. The total was $3,600 over 2 years and 8 months. Luxury car rentals, designer clothes, dinners I'd never smelled before. They froze the sub-account, restored what money they could, and turned the case over to the police. That same afternoon, the city office door opened to reveal an article in the community section. 73-year-old veteran goes public about domestic abuse, calls for protection of the elderly. My son's name wasn't in the article. The press was careful. But everyone in the neighborhood knew which house had just pulled the curtains down. I wasn't triumphant. I was tired. But in that tiredness, I felt light, like someone who has just opened his eyes after a fever and realized the sky was still blue. Daniel brought over the pie his wife had just baked. Emma and Theo leaned close to the door, their eyes round as marbles. "Grandpa Marshall, tell us about the flag," Emma begged. I laughed, telling stories softly, stories without explosions. Just the hands of comrades dragging each other across a shallow stream, sharing the last loaf of pie, teaching each other how to fold a blanket so that it was as straight as a lake. Hayes came twice a week. We didn't talk much about files. "How are Martha's orchids?" he would ask. "I'm learning how to water her with my old hand," I said. "So you win," he laughed. "The real winner is not the one who knocks someone down, but the one who keeps the good." At the end of December, the court upheld the injunction, opening the way for a civil lawsuit to be filed for damages. Nathan lost his insurance job for violation of professional ethics. His shiny car disappeared from the yard overnight, leaving a faint oil stain like a scratch on the otherwise quiet road. I didn't call him. I didn't text him. I didn't say anything bad about my child to anyone. I just straightened Martha's frames, cleaned the silver tray she liked to use for holidays, and hung the medals a little higher. Not to challenge anyone, but to remind myself that whatever I did, a good woman was watching. Dr. Brooks changed the prescription, reduced the prazosin by a notch, and advised me to learn abdominal breathing. "You've had a lot less trouble sleeping," she said. "Maybe the fear isn't from what you saw in the woods, but from what you've been pretending not to see for the past 2 years." I nodded. One evening, the lights in my living room were brighter than usual. Daniel and his family came over for a New Year's Eve dinner. Hayes came too, carrying a bottle of old wine, a gift from my wife, Maggie. We ate, laughed, and told little stories like replanting a row of trees. Halfway through the meal, Emma tilted her head. "Grandpa Marshall, are you mad at Nathan's father?" The table fell silent for a beat. I looked at her, her curly hair falling over her rosy cheeks. "You feel sorry for him because he got lost," I said slowly. "But you don't give your map to someone who hasn't learned to read it." Maggie poured me more tea, smiling, speaking like a monk. "No," I shook my head. "Spoken like a man who keeps his oath." I wrote a letter to Nathan, but I didn't send it. I put it under Martha's vase, where her scent was. In the letter, I didn't tell the story of my sins. I told about day 3 of boot camp, when a man fell from exhaustion. I picked him up, and we finished together. I wrote about November, when I stood before 600 people, not shaking, because I knew that behind me was not only a lawyer, but also people who died so that I could breathe today. At the end of the letter, I wrote, "If you want to do it again, this door is not locked, but I will lock any behavior that could hurt others. I am your father, but first, I am a human being and a soldier." I folded the letter. Martha once said, "When you write a good letter, sometimes you don't need to send it, because the thing that needs to change is you." The following March, we started a small fund with the VFW called White Orchids, Martha's favorite flower, to provide free legal advice to seniors suspected of being abused. Hayes did the legal work, Daniel did the media work. I sat at the reception desk with a pot of tea. Hands were shaking on the table, eyes were blurred with fatigue. I listened, not judging. I told him that silence was not a virtue if silence allowed evil to grow. Late one afternoon, as I was watering the orchids, the doorbell rang. Nathan stood there, much thinner, his coat wrinkled, his hands restless. I didn't invite him in. I stepped out onto the porch, gently closing the door behind me. Between him and me was the dawn rising over the wood. "Dad," he started, then stopped. "I want to talk. Call Attorney Hayes," I said calmly. "If you want to apologize, it doesn't come through the front door. It comes through action, doing community service, returning every penny you've taken, getting therapy if necessary, and keeping quiet when appropriate." He nodded, his eyes red. I didn't hug him. I put a piece of paper in his hand, the address of the social services office downtown, and Hayes's number. When Nathan turned away, I breathed as if I'd just climbed a hill. Martha, if she were here, would rub my back and say, "Good. One step in the right direction. The others will come." At night, I turned on the small porch light. Yellow light bathed the white orchids. I thought about war, not the kind you're thinking about. The war of my life now had no more bangs, no more gunpowder smoke. It was a misspelled name transfer application. It was a video collage labeled "For the benefit of relatives." It was, "I worry about you," repeated to the point of hollowness, while a hand quietly rummaged through Dad's wallet. But justice, if you persevere, is like the morning. It comes. It comes in the eyes of a young soldier who says, "My door is open." It comes in the firm voice of a lawyer friend who says, "According to state law." It comes in the way I straighten a picture frame. Why do I tell you this? Because silence has given too much ground to the noisy. Because somewhere, a father is sitting on a hospital bench, $20 in his hand, wondering what he did wrong. Because I want to tell them, you're not wrong to believe. You just need to learn how to get it back. If you've read this far, lift your head a little. Look around at the elderly in your neighborhood. See who's been silent for too long. Ask quietly, "Can I help?" Some wars don't require guns, just an open hand. I'm Marshall Grant, 73 years old. 2 Purple Hearts and a Bronze Star. I've relearned to stand upright in the middle of my living room. Today, I set the teapot on the table, waiting for guests, not the kind who come to steal it, but the ones who come to rebuild it. On the wall, Martha's folded flag, faded, the folds still square, lies framed. I touch the cold glass, my fingertips warm. I hear the Ortiz children running in the yard, someone calling each other to do their homework. Ordinary life, the last prized spoils, returns. And I smile. Because once brothers don't abandon each other, we don't abandon ourselves.
If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts on this story in the comments. To hear the next story, click the box on the left.